Hello everyone, my name is Isaac Sugunro, and today I am going to be going over what the DOM API is and how we can use it to add functionality to a SharePoint list form. So as you can see in our agenda, I'm going to talk about the DOM and then I'm going to show you a quick demo of how to add functionality to a list form. Let's get started. So the DOM, as it says here, stands for Document Object Model, and it basically represents a tree-like structure of an HTML page. So every page that you go to on a web, it's created using HTML. You also have some CSS in there and some JavaScript, but when the browser gets this page, what it does, it parses the code and it creates a tree-like structure, and it puts all the elements in the node, making it possible for JavaScript to be able to interact with the nodes, and to make it do things that's needed. So I'm gonna go to, so for example, let's go to SharePoint and just pull up a page. So this page here is created using HTML. It's created for us with SharePoint creates it for us as we create our custom list. And let me show you the HTML. So this is if I go to page source, this is the HTML that's created. And you can do this on any page. It doesn't have to be SharePoint, but if you go to any page and you view the source, you see a lot of JavaScript in here. But as you continue to scroll down, you start to see HTML and its elements. And what happens is when the browser pulls this up, it parses it. It goes through each one, and it grabs these elements and it puts everything in a node, in a hierarchy, in like a tree-like fashion. Let me show that to you. So if I come here and if I do a F12, and if you go to your elements, and as you will see, this is different from the view source I just pulled up. As you can see, these are the nodes I'm talking about. So it went through that HTML and it parsed it into nodes. And so this is sort of like a tree-like fashion. You can go to any element, and if it has a child, you see this little triangle here, and if you click on it, it expands it and it'll show you its children. And as you can see on this particular page, there's a whole lot of them. You can expand and then you can close, and these are different nodes that I'm dealing with. And the DOM API allows you to interact with this and allows you to manipulate certain things. So let's say, for example, this comments box there. Let me grab that element. Let me select this. Come here. And let's see. So the name of this is, so this is the ID of this. So ID is equal to that. Copy. So if I come here and I say document.get element by ID, and this is part of the API that allows me to grab an element. So if I put that ID in here, pretty long ID, and I say something like style.background color, and I say equal to, let's see, yellow. So I've been able to, with JavaScript, add a background color of yellow to this comments box. And so that's why the DOM is so great. You can deal with it directly, instead of using a framework. Now sometimes the code may be a little bit longer, but if you're used to it and you know it very well, it's actually quite, in my personal opinion, better to use the DOM API, using JavaScript to manipulate it. So let's get ahead and start with our demo. So what I plan on doing, let me refresh this. what I plan on doing is, if a user comes here and they select yes, this comments and this box and its associated box will be hidden, will disappear, and if it's a no, it'll come back. So let's go ahead and let me show you how I do that. Okay, so I have this empty JavaScript file. Here's my HTML file, and I'm I have a reference to my JavaScript file from within my HTML file. And as you notice, my sample DOM form demo time. You see it's the same thing here. So this basically is just, let me close this out so I can show you all. If I edit the page, so I have a content editor that I've added to the page, and in that content editor web part I have a reference to my HTML file that I showed you earlier. So let me stop editing. Let me bring it. So if you click on new item, here's my form, and in this new item is where I added the reference to that HTML file that also has a reference to the JavaScript file. And this is where we're gonna add all our code. It's always a good idea to do the best you can to separate your JavaScript from your HTML. Keep those two separated. So now let's go ahead and get started. So window.onload equal to function, anonymous function. So what I'm going to do is, as soon as the page loads, I want you to start interacting with the DOM, and I'm going to add some code here to do that for us. So var director document dot query selector I'm going to say title equal to director approves. So let's see if this works. So what I'm saying is, I want a reference to that object, to director approves object, because I want to do some things with it. So let's go to the page. Let me bring up this first, and because you can actually run this in the console and to see if it works. So let me do that. And let me add this here. Director. And as you can see, so I said, query the document for me, query this document for me, and wherever there's a title equal to director approves, bring that back, give me a reference to that node. And let me show you how I came up with director approves. So if you click on this here to select an element, and I go here, let me do that again. So come here. So here's my director approves element drop down that I've selected here, and I could have used ID, but I know the title will be unique because I don't have any other element on my page with the same name of director approves. SharePoint won't even allow you to create two columns of the same name. So here's the director approves. So that's why I was able to do this. So query the document, query that DOM basically, and find me a title that equals to director approves. And that's what I've done here in my code. Let me go back to the code now. Oops. Come back. Okay. So now what I want to do now is, and this is more JavaScript than the DOM API. What I want to do now is I want to add an event listener to that drop down. So when it changes to yes, no, or one of the other options, it'll know what to do. So the way you add an event listener I say director dot add event listener. The event that I'm going to be looking for is change. So you know we have on click, double click, and stuff like that, but I want change. So check value. So when there's a change, run this function here called check value, and we haven't created the check value yet, so let's create that. Check, oops, excuse me, function check value. Okay, so within my function check value, I am going to grab the value now that was selected. So var, and I'm going to say, I'm going to just call it eValue equal to director dot options. Let's do this. Director dot selected. Oops, selected index. Dot value. Okay. I also want a reference to the comments, so var comments equal to documents dot query, and I showed you all how to do this earlier. Query selector. I had checked earlier, this didn't have a title, so I'm just going to use the ID, and I'm going to say if it begins. So this, what I'm using here is this is a wildcard. So basically that character is saying if it begins, if the ID begins with comments, then that's what I want. So now I'm going to say if eValue is equal to yes, comments dot parent node, and I'm going to go over where the parent node is and all that. Parent node. Oops. So parent node dot parent node style dot display equal to none. Okay. Let me save this. Actually, let me add this else. Alert. Unhide. Save. Okay. So let me refresh the page. And let's run this to see how it works. So if I select yes, it goes away. If I select no, you see I have unhide, further unhide. So we know it's working. Well, let me show you why I have this parent node. So when I showed you all the DOM, it showed you in nodes. And let me collapse this. It showed you in nodes, and every node, well, most of the nodes except the very, very top node, it doesn't have a parent. So for example, looking at this here, if I open up this node here, this node, this ribbon row, it has a child. This is a child, and this child, its parent is this node. It's wrapped up in that. this parent, sweet bar, has these two children. This node has that child. The parent of this child is the one right above it. It's quite a simple concept. The parent of this one that's highlighted is this tag right above it. And the parent of these two tags is this div here. So the reason, let me bring back the, okay. The reason why we have the parent node is because, let me unhide this first so let me show the comments box first. It'll make more sense. So I'm going to say this display needs to be a table dash row. Okay, save. Refresh the page. Okay, so let me select this element here. Now I just don't want to hide this box here. I also want to hide this as well. And this whole form is created basically in tables. See, tr, td, these are rows. So I want to hide this whole row. But in order for me to hide this whole row, I need to grab the row. And the way I was able to find out that it had three, it had to go up three parents, great grandfather or mother. So here is our comments box here, and this comments box has one parent, so that's parent number one. That's parent node number one. This parent node is wrapped in this one, so that's parent node number two. And this is parent number three. And as you can see, as I am going through, it highlights what I need. If you look on the left hand side, it highlighted what I need. So that's parent number three. So in my code, I am saying from where this comments is, go up one parent, two parents, three parents, and change the style, the display style, to none. And that's what's going on. So watch what happens as I select yes. As you can see, display none, which it made that whole row disappear. None. If I come back here and I say no, table row. Meaning it just adds the table back, that row back. And that's why it's able to do that. So once you understand how the DOM API works, and if you know JavaScript and how to interact with the DOM, there's a lot of fantastic things that you can do. You can even hide the ribbon, you can hide the save, any of these different elements up here, you can hide each of this once you find out what it is. So if you come here and you wanted to hide, let's say just the save, you just grab its ID, this whole ID here, and you can hide it. Let's see if this works. So ID. So let me come here. So if I say document dot, let me use the get element by ID, and I do this, and I say dot display equal to none. Watch what happens to the save in the ribbon. Let's see if this works. Oh. Large get element by ID display style. Oh, I'm missing something here. Oh, see, that's why. So, excuse me. Style dot. Okay, it should work now. As you can see, the save disappeared. It's gone. So there are a lot of things that you can do. Let me bring it back. There are a lot of things you can do with the DOM. And I hope this has been helpful. I hope you see the power of the DOM. You don't have to get InfoPath if you're on-prem. I think this should also work in Office 365. It should. I don't see why it shouldn't. But give it a try. Thank you. And you can subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be doing a lot of these videos with SharePoint. Everything SharePoint, coding, out of the box things, how to use it with Vue.js to create application with Vue.js. And hope this has been helpful. Thank you. Bye.